Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never thought it would come to this. I mean, I always knew relationships could get complicated. But nothing really prepared me for the day Claire looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I've got a male friend now. Deal with it. My name's Ethan." And at that moment, I felt a knot tighten in my chest that I couldn't untangle. We'd been married for 8 years. And while I knew things weren't perfect, I thought we had a mutual understanding. I thought we were partners. I thought we were a team. But apparently I had been wrong. Claire had always been lively, a whirlwind of energy and laughter that drew people toward her. She was magnetic, effortless, and kind in ways that made everyone feel seen. I, on the other hand, was steadier, quieter, more grounded. I liked routines. I liked reliability. I liked being able to count on things staying where I put them. At first, that balance worked. She was the spark and I was the anchor. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. Started small. Little changes I told myself I'd overlook. A skipped kiss at the end of the day. A distracted smile when I tried to tell her about my day. Even the evenings we spent together began to feel less like connection and more like shared space. Two people inhabiting the same apartment without meeting each other. I tried to reason it, thinking maybe work was draining her or stress was catching up. But that day, when she mentioned her male friend with that unapologetic ease, I finally saw the truth staring back at me. Claire wasn't just distracted or tired. She was emotionally checked out. I remember the silence that followed her words. She expected me to react, I think, but all I felt was this heavy, strange calm. Not numbness, not anger, calm. My mind raced, flipping through memories and moments that had seemed trivial at the time. The late-night drives, the quiet mornings with coffee, the dinners we'd cooked together. They weren't trivial at all. They were the small stitches that had held us together, and now they felt like loose threads in my hands, ready to unravel. I walked over to the bedroom slowly, like moving through water. Every step felt heavier than the last. I opened the closet, looking at the shelves and hangers as if I might find some secret reason for why things had gone so wrong. And then I began. I started packing her bags. Not angrily, not in revenge. Just methodically, almost ritualistically. Each folded shirt, each carefully placed pair of shoes, each small item of hers that had been scattered around our apartment became part of this quiet act of acknowledgement. It was strange how surreal it felt. Claire was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone like the words she had just spoken were nothing more than background noise. I didn't speak. I didn't announce my actions. I didn't even glance at her. I simply packed. The sound of fabric folding and zippers clicking felt louder than anything she said. Louder than the accusations I imagined. Louder than the disbelief I felt welling inside me. I thought back to how things used to be. The spark we'd had in the first years of our marriage, the late-night walks in the park, the way she used to laugh at my stupid jokes, even the ones that weren't funny. There was a rhythm, a flow, an unspoken promise of partnership. Now the rhythm was gone. The flow was broken, and the promise felt like a memory fading in sunlight. Her male friend, though, that one casual mention that felt like a dagger, or maybe it was more subtle, a slow, insidious shift that revealed a larger truth. I had trusted her completely, had built my life around our shared routines, and in one sentence, she had shown me that she no longer needed that trust. That sentence, so casually spoken, forced me to confront what I had been avoiding for months. I couldn't rely on her to meet me halfway anymore. Not in conversation, not in affection, not in partnership. I paused in the middle of packing and took a deep breath. For the first time in months, maybe years, I allowed myself to look at her properly. Claire, my wife, the woman I had loved through highs and lows, was smiling faintly at her phone screen. Not at me, not at us, and I realized something profound. She had already chosen a world I wasn't part of, and she had been living in it while I kept trying to keep the old world intact. There was no anger in me yet, no shouting or threats. There was only clarity, and clarity is a strange, weightless thing. It lets you see everything at once. It lets you understand that staying the same, pretending things were fine, pretending I could negotiate for love that had left the building, that wasn't strength. That was surrender. And I wasn't ready to surrender anymore. I went back to the bedroom and zipped the last suitcase. I didn't glance at her again, but I could feel her eyes on me, flicking up every now and then. It was almost as if she was waiting for a reaction, expecting the anger, the shouting, the pleading. But there was none of that. There was only me, moving deliberately, carefully, like a man reclaiming his own space after years of being invisible in his own home. When I finished, I stepped back and looked at the neatly packed bags lined up by the door. It struck me how symbolic the moment had become. Every item, every pair of shoes, every folded shirt. It wasn't just her life being prepared for departure. It was a statement. I was done bending, done compromising for a connection that no longer existed. I was finally seeing the truth of our relationship laid bare in these mundane objects. "Ethan?" she said, her voice soft, tentative, like she was testing if I was still the same man she had married. I didn't answer immediately. I simply walked over, opened the door, and placed the bags carefully in the hallway, in the exact order she would need to take them. I didn't need to say anything. My silence was more than words. My silence was acknowledgement, and acknowledgement was a power she hadn't realized she had been taking for granted. I thought, she started, her words faltering. "I know," I said quietly. "I know what you thought. I don't think I can do this anymore." Her face shifted from surprise to confusion, then to something that looked like regret. But it was fleeting, like a shadow passing over a sunny street. She reached for her phone, possibly to call someone, possibly to plead, possibly to make excuses. I didn't flinch. I didn't intervene. I let her process it in her own time. It's funny how quiet the apartment felt after that. The usual hum of life, the fridge, the heater, the faint city noises outside, all seemed amplified in the absence of the tension I had been carrying for months. The heaviness I had felt for so long, the constant ache of trying to force a connection that wasn't there, had lifted in a way I didn't expect. It was like taking a deep breath after holding it underwater for too long. Claire finally stood up and walked toward the door, her steps hesitant. She glanced at me once, her lips pressed into a thin line. There was no yelling, no tears, just a quiet acknowledgement that this was it. She picked up the bags, one by one, and I helped her carry them to the foyer. Not because I wanted to make it easier for her, but because it felt like the right human thing to do, one last act of care without attachment, one last gesture of respect for what we had once shared. She paused at the threshold, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Ethan," she whispered, but I knew she wasn't asking me to stay. She wasn't begging. She wasn't apologizing. She was just processing. "I'm done," I said simply, and I meant it. Not as a threat, not as a declaration of victory, but as a statement of clarity. I was done trying to salvage a connection that wasn't meant to be. I had loved her fully, given my best, but love without reciprocity isn't love at all. It's endurance, and endurance can quietly kill the soul. She left. I closed the door behind her, and for a moment, the silence was almost deafening. But then I noticed something I hadn't in years. The apartment felt lighter, freer. The spaces we had been struggling to fill with unspoken grievances and tiny resentments were suddenly empty, but not painful. Empty in a way that made room for something new, something better, something that would no longer require me to shrink or hide pieces of myself. I sank onto the couch, letting the quiet wrap around me. There was no anger, no vindictiveness, just the calm, clear understanding that I had done the right thing for myself. I had set boundaries. I had claimed my dignity. And in doing so, I realized something vital. Sometimes love isn't about holding on. Sometimes love is about knowing when to let go and having the courage to do it without bitterness. Later, when friends asked me about the day, I didn't dramatize it. I didn't embellish the story. I told them the truth, simple and bare. Claire chose her path. I chose mine. And in that choice, I found a strange, bitter peace that no argument, no fight, no betrayal could have given me. It's been weeks since that day. Life has returned to a rhythm, but one that feels different now, steadier, more authentic, more mine. I still think about Claire sometimes, not with pain, but with a quiet sense of understanding. People say closure is hard to come by. I've learned that closure doesn't come from someone else. Closure comes from yourself. From knowing that you acted with integrity, even when the world around you chose a different path. I keep the apartment neat now, not because I'm obsessive, but because I can. I take time for myself, little things I'd neglected in the shadow of someone else's choices. I cook the meals I enjoy, read the books I've put off, and even laugh at my own jokes again, like I used to before we became strangers living under the same roof. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I think about the life we might have had if she had stayed. But then I remind myself what we had isn't gone. It exists in the memories, in the laughter we shared, in the small kindnesses we gave one another. And that's enough. Because in letting go, I've discovered that I don't need someone else to make me whole. I just need to be willing to choose myself every day without hesitation.